Hello, good evening, and welcome. I'm Simon Bestwick.
And I'm Gemma Files, and this, of course, is No
Oh,
Darkness
yes,
But
that.
Ours.
Welcome to part 3 of our conversation with Paula Ash. You can find a link to parts 1 and 2 of the interview in the description below. Now, without further ado, here's the final part of our talk with Paula on No Darkness But Ours. People seem to assume that, the likes of the Republicans were just like a spent force, that they were just like the dying last of some kind of like dinosaur. I mean, that was just dying out.
They were laughable. They were the Tea Party patriots. They were the butt to every joke and every late night, show. And then 2016 came around and shit stopped being funny real quick.
People can they are ridiculous. They are absurd.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
I mean, fascists are always absurd.
There's a lot being said about
until you have to live with them.
Yeah,
you have to live
it's funny till it's in your house.
This kind of like big posturing twat in as somebody put it looks like he's going to Mardi Gras or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
But another thing, I mean, there's a comic strip. Certainly, I grew up reading 2000 AD when I was back in Britain in the 80s, which is one of the reasons I read a lot of kind of superhero movies tend to leave me cold, because I was growing up on these kind of very bleak dystopian kind of anti-hero kind. But they had Nemesis Warlock, who in a future where Earth has become this clerical fascist state, led by a guy who is literally called Thomas de Torquemada, named himself after his favourite personage from history. And the leader of they go exterminating all aliens as well as all humans with pure thoughts or anyone else different. And the leader of the resistance is Nemesis from a race called the Warlocks, who look like Satan. So this is the good. But there is a wonderful bit where Torquemada is supposed to be dead, and this other guy has taken over, and he's having a conversation with the arch bigot of the city. Yeah, who was South African. This obviously being the 1980s apartheid.
Of course, Boyke.
This whole study going around killing aliens. It's too expensive. It costs huge amount of money, and we're trying to actually build good relations. We can make more money out of being good with them, but the people need somebody to blame. And they've actually begun, yes, I gave it a great deal of thought. I considered being prejudiced against ginger people and people with beards, but I finally decided we'd be prejudiced against freckled people. And
okay.
A huge rant about how the Frecks are the new deviants, and he says, obviously, we'll do usual things. There'll be stories about the high levels of crime in areas with large freckled populations, and it was just basically reducing this whole thing to the absurdity that it is by just taking it as that. But again, I mean. And like with Torquemada, he's ludicrous as this hugely bigoted kind of spouting, kind of rubbish. He's also terrifying for the exact same reason that he is ridiculous, because he's trying to impose this kind of ludicrous, kind of stupid view on
everybody.
On everybody, and he has the power to. Much, I mean, again, and you could say the same of Trump, except the one saving grace of the Trump administration was its sheer incompetence and uselessness. People hardly stayed in their job for long enough to.
Sure. In his administration for long enough to do any of the stupid things that they set out to do, but
it's
this thing. I mean, and I understand why people reject it, but this thing of having to check yourself, and to do self checks all the time, and I feel that growing up without a diagnosis was actually very useful for me in that way. Because masking, I'm constantly thinking about, oh no, don't say that. Definitely don't say that. And also keep checking how you're supposed to be reacting to this other thing.
Yeah.
And that's something that you understand because of the intersectional stuff that's going on with you.
Several reasons. Yeah.
Exactly. And Simon, I know you understand that as well. To look around.
There are times when I feel I feel I'm getting a bit. You get off my lawn, you kids. But
but I mean, we're all willing to do the work because we know that it's useful for us,
yes.
and for the people that we love.
Yes.
And everyone wants to get into a position where they no longer have to do the work, and they no longer have to care about what other people think.
Yeah.
That's why being a billionaire makes you an asshole. Like,
exactly. I was just gonna say, like, that's exactly what was wrong with Trump, and also with Elon Musk and all these other billionaire types who they don't have to try anymore because they can just buy people's not even affection. Like, they can just buy the they don't even have to do like body language. It doesn't matter if you have that much money, but you don't have to worry about body language. You don't have to worry about people giving you side eye because you could, destroy their lives in a half a second, so you don't have to worry about those silly human things like your mirror neurons telling you to match the expression of the person you're talking to. Who gives a fuck about the person I'm talking to? I can buy them. You know what I mean? Exactly. So you can bypass, human physiological, the sort of human physiological empathy engine because you have enough money to do so. Like, that's a fucked system, man. Like,
it's a super fucked system. And again, like, the line from Mother Night, if you're so smart, why ain't you rich? It's like that's the basic thing that makes all of us want to go, well, this person's rich, so they must be.
They have to have something worthwhile. If they're not super smart, they have to have something. No, this is the literal worst person on the planet. Yeah, they're the worst people on the planet. Yeah. And they are enabled to have
inbred
the most
morons.
Power.
And I'm saying that to be nasty to inbred morons. I'm sorry.
A lot of our governments, I mean, I refer to our Conservative Party, many of whom come from generations of the actual upper class. I mean, David Cameron was, I think, distantly, it was about seventh in line. He was distantly related to the Queen, to the royal family. And, of course, they've got this kind of tokenistic thing. The previous Home Secretary was Priti Patel, and the current one, Suella Braverman, both of whom are like first generation of their families to be born in the UK, and yet are enacting horrifically racist, anti-immigrant and anti-refugee policies, which were recently compared to like 1930s Germany in terms of rhetoric. The guy who did that is facing a hell of a lot more flack for that comparison than the politicians enacting those policies are for those policies, because...
Well, sort of like the dude who's like, I didn't say that we should exterminate transgenderism.
Yeah.
It's like, here's an actual clip of you saying it.
Those are the words that came out of your mouth. What do you mean? I just saw it. Like, I mean, but that's that collective
maybe that was social. We don't know.
But that's coming back to like ideas about like gaslighting. Like that's that collective gaslight. Like even they were just talking yesterday about how Tucker Carlson was saying that the January 6th insurrection was a peaceful protest, and people my wife was watching like I don't know, like Jon Stewart or something like that, not Jon Stewart, but whoever's hosting the Daily Show now. It's not Trevor Noah anymore, but they were talking about that, and I was just like, I just had that moment where I screamed at the TV because I was like, because I said, I saw you people having a fit and climbing up the walls of the Capitol. There was nothing peaceful about it. I saw, and
people
it was just like
taking dumps on people's desks.
I saw that happen. I saw it happen. And it's like
to be a lot worse than it was.
Yeah. Yes. And, and it felt like the part in the horror movie where you're trying to convince people that like the monster is there, like the monster is real. And I'm like, no, I saw this happen. I know. And but like, Tucker Carlson.
One of the funnier things that I've seen recently in like horror culture criticism of horror movies is, oh man, I'm so sick of people not believing other people. Well, I understand because we have to deal with it so much in real life.
Yeah.
But it's kind of great.
It's kind of awesome that everybody like, I mean, that's like that's the whole thing. Like, welcome to it. I mean, hashtag trust women. Like Like, people haven't been making this shit up.
Saw a strange person smiling at you everywhere you went. No, that can't possibly be true.
That's not happening.
Someone
They took off their skin and they were just a bunch of smiles.
Still haven't seen that. I'm still haven't covered. I mean, we saw Nocebo recently with Eva Green.
Yet. I mean, I know that Eva Green's amazing, and I really like Mark Strong as well.
Brilliant. And the actress Chai.
Yes.
Oh, I can't remember her surname. I'm so sorry. I feel awful.
Yeah.
The Filipino actress who plays Filipino actress is absolutely fantastic as well.
Okay.
Interestingly, it's been criticised on one part of the website for basically relying on a certain trope in that the Filipino woman is bringing a certain kind of folk magic with. I don't want to talk about it too much in terms of spoilers.
Magical Filipino lady.
Again, there's a definite kind of I think she's definitely I think it's definitely kind of there's an element of a hidden protagonist in this, in that the character you think you're supposed to sympathise with is not the character you should be sympathising with. And the character you think you assume you're supposed to see as the villain is not the character who is in fact the villain. It's those roles are reversed. But of course, people often have those kind of expectations kind of hardwired in and don't always see past them. But yes, I liked it. I liked it a lot.
But it's heavily reliant on the idea of gaslighting, and it's heavily reliant on the idea of that sort of oh God, what do you call those things? Like in the movie Bug by William Friedkin, where people believe that they've been infested with bugs made out of some strange substance. There's like a name for it. It's like, yeah, all this is happening because I have something or other.
Yeah.
And they're living in my body, and I can't.
I've heard Morgellons. Yeah, that's it.
Morgellons, yes, that's
right.
Morgellons,
yeah.
Everything happens in my life because I have Morgellons. Somebody gave me Morgellons, or I just they descended on me somehow, you know.
Yeah.
And I mean, when you think about it, at one time, nobody knew that there were microscopic creatures that lived in your body and made you sick.
Sure. Yeah.
Sometimes.
Sure. Yeah.
And other microscopic creatures that made you better. You know? But there is that real sense of, you know, it's like, yeah, your boss is a lizard person, your wife is a witch, you're, you know.
It's like, you don't know anything. Yeah,
that's right. God damn
it. Again, because I suppose we've probably all grown up with, to an extent, if you've read, you know, horror fiction or science fiction, with stories of people who realise something terrible is going on and they're being dismissed as cranks and nuts or hysterics. And of course, you see, but then again, you sort of see you wonder so many people get taken in by anti-vax bullshit, because it's kind of like
exactly, because it gives you an explanation, and otherwise you have to deal with the fact that A, no real explanation, B, it's probably genetic, which means it's kind of your fault.
And there's really nothing much you can do about it.
Yeah, and there's nothing much you can do about it now because the person's here.
Yeah.
The person's here, and they have to live in this world, and you have to live in this world with them. And, you know, certainly that's one of the reasons that in experimental film, I made the decision to not have Lois's husband be an asshole to her. Oh, thank you.
First of all, I tried so hard. Okay, I promise. Like, I tried so hard not to fangirl, and I'm not going to. But which I just the amount of restraint it's requiring me to do this, I'm proud of myself. But I love Lois and her husband's relationship so much, because it's one of the few times you see that represented where he actually believes what she's saying, and that makes for such a richer experience in terms of the story itself. Like, what if we just took people on their word, not like in a manipulative way, but like, what if I love this person, I know them well enough, I know that they are the smart skeptical kind of person who isn't going to believe bullshit. What if I just believe them? Like, what if I trusted them enough to take them on their word? And that makes that story richer for it. Yeah.
I mean, the fact is that, you know, there are a lot of guys who can't deal with having a child with autism, a child on the spectrum. Mm-hmm. And there are a lot of guys, there are a lot of marriages that fail. And often they fail because the guy leaves. Mm-hmm. And a lot of single mothers with autistic children. But I didn't want to go that way because A, that didn't happen to me. And B, because the weird part is that my husband is a Catholic. And, you know, it's not great all the time. But I think there are issues that he needs to deal with, whatever. But
you'd be likely to believe in something supernatural than you would.
Exactly. So, you know, it's sort of like, I don't know what this is. It sounds like a demon or something. It's like
have you thought about
possession? Some little god, you know, what my student says it's a little god. Yeah, like demon, right?
It was demons, but it was demons.
And one way or the other, I'm going to support you through it. Makes our son stop, you know, puking up bulbs and dirt.
Yeah.
That's the keep your eyes on the prize here.
Eyes on the prize, man.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, and a lot of the time, yeah, it is like that. It's like, you know, what's more important? Is it more important that you feel that you're right in this? You know, it's like, I just think that what you're telling me is probably bullshit.
Right, right.
Or is it more important to deal with the thing that's in front of you?
Yes, yeah. Because whether it's bullshit or not, whatever's happening right now is not going to stop. So let's work on that. Whatever we need to do to get that thing out of the way, to get the kids stop throwing up bulbs and dirt. You know. You know, to stop the headaches and the giant lady crawling out of the cinema, the screen with her sword and cutting people's heads off. Let's let that stop. Let's get that to quit. And then we can talk about
what it was.
We can have philosophical discussions. Let's get the lady who's cutting off people's heads to stop doing that. And I say that mockingly, but that's like my favorite. That's one of my favorite books of all time. I love it so much. It's my favorite.
Every time I hear that, I'm really happy, and I think, oh God, what if my next book is not that good?
You know, it's funny because I can only okay, I'm just gonna. So the response to "We're Here to Hurt Each Other" has been insane, and I just never in a million years. And so now my struggle has been, and this seems like such a shitty thing to say, you know what I mean? Like when you create something and people are like, hey, this is awesome. And you're like, fuck, I have to do that again. And I don't know how I did it the first time.
Exactly.
And it's a real mind fuck. It's a mind fuck I'm grateful to experience, but it kind of sucks in some ways. And I don't mean to sound ungrateful for that, but yeah,
you can, as a writer, you can prepare for failure, or you can prepare for, you know, putting your heart out there and nobody notices.
Yeah.
But what you prepare for is people going, whoa, that's brilliant, success. Yeah. You know, we want more. And it's like, shit.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but it must
In retrospect, I actually feel that it was good that I didn't know that people were responding to my stuff as well as they were until suddenly I was confronted with it. And it was like, oh no! What? I wrote that in my underwear.
I wrote that on my phone at 2:00 in the morning. What are you talking about? Yeah.
You cray. Sure. Thanks. Yes. I gotta say, I'm a huge fangirl of yours, and however long it's taking you to do what you do, it's right. You
say that.
Yeah, you are doing the work, and it shows.
Well,
it's there on the page.
I got a fanboy as well about one of my favourite stories there, which was Jacqueline Laughs Last and the Gaslight. I absolutely love that one. I love that take on the whole Ripper myth. That was just like fantastic. What wonderfully twisted corner of your brain did that come from?
it came from, it's funny because, so it came from my wife and I took a trip to the UK and Ireland in 2014, I think. Mm-hmm. And my wife, who, bless her, is such a lovely person for putting up with my nonsense. And so she knows that I'm a big, obviously a big horror nerd. And so we were in London and she was like, do you want to go to Whitechapel? And I was like, of course I want to go to Whitechapel. Yes, absolutely. Of course I want to go. Anyway, she's like, okay, well, great, because I've arranged for us to have a bus tour of Whitechapel. And so of course I was there and we're doing the touristy stuff, which was fine. And I knew I wanted to tell a Jack the Ripper story, but I didn't want to tell a Jack the Ripper story. Like, what else is there to tell? You know what I mean? Like, Jack the Ripper, and I'm like, I didn't want to, and I know there's the whole, like, who was Jack the Ripper and the various theories about who he was, and I just kept thinking about, like, what if Jack wasn't a dude? Like, what if somehow, how would that work? And then I just kind of ran with that premise, and I really, and I also really wanted to play, because I do a lot of, like, I write a lot about, like, religion and stuff, because that was a big part of my life growing up. And so I also wanted to play with the idea of who gets to be a religious authority and who gets to be holy, and what happens when, your happiness, or in this case, your partner's happiness, relies on this sense of, like, doing the work, doing the good Lord's work, reaching out to the people, proselytizing and things like that, and saving people, saving the wretched and the most, the most looked, I can't think of words right now, but the most looked down upon people in society, who are obviously at this point in time sex workers, right? Yeah. And so
used to be lepers, now it's sex workers.
Yeah, right, exactly, right. And
your nose is still falling off.
So. Right, exactly. Your nose is still falling off. We're still going to keep you over there, except not. But anyway, I just wanted to, like, play around with, like, that, and, like, how, what if there was a reason for it beyond just, the sort of the again, that sort of impulse to reduce a person to an object. Like, does that make it any better?
That's better or worse? I mean,
make it better, or does it make it worse? And, like, and the thing that I know, I mean, I guess, spoiler alert, my favorite thing about the story is that Jacqueline wins. Like, she gets what she wants, right? She murders these women horrifically, and her deacon is bad. I also wanted to write a story. I also really wanted to write a story about a woman who enjoyed having sex with her husband and wanted to continue doing so, and wanted to because I wanted to tell a story about a woman who had an active and healthy sexual relationship with her husband, and
that's the only healthy part about it.
That's the only healthy part about the story, that was
like, listen, if you keep rejecting my husband's efforts to save you, he can't get it up.
Exactly, right? Like, that's so weird. Like, she's like, I am not going to deal with this, with these cock blocking whores, basically. And so that's where that story came from, which is probably why I don't talk about where my stories come from, because
I love the idea that the creation of this is the devil's work, so the devil must exist, so for the next 5 minutes or whatever, you're going to be like, oh my God, Reverend, save me. I mean, understandable, completely understandable. For me, too bad for them, but
sucks to be y'all. Sorry, ladies. But I also,
You're probably going to die of something. So
something anyway. You're going to get murdered by somebody else, or you're going to, have some sort of, horrible disease that's going to kill you, or whatever.
Yeah.
So or starve to death. You're going to drink yourself to death.
Your liver is going to explode.
Right. So
well, as things, they're a means to an end. They're just kind of like, you're just objects for me to have an orgasm kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yes.
It is where I love the kind of the whole explanation, because part of anything else, it's like with any kind of mystery, like who was Jack the Ripper, you'd always be disappointed really if you found the answer, because at the end of the day, it's just going to be it's probably certainly just going to be some guy with a who didn't like women very much, or just
what was it? The most recent idea was just a guy who used to get blackout drunk and then he did shit.
Yeah.
Didn't realize he was doing it. And I'm like, well, that's the most likely thing, I suppose.
Sure.
Yeah. So the kind of
boring.
The most interesting story,
Yeah. Kind of boring within context. For me, it's all the hellish cruelties of heaven. That's, so much that I love in that. I have a real pull towards Maenad stories, women bonding together to go ape shit and destroy. But I love the fact that, it's Moloch instead of Dionysus.
Right.
So it's like, not only are we going to bond together and destroy, we're going to destroy our children, we're going to destroy the world, we're going to destroy ourselves.
Everything. Just take it all out. I read about the women of the frenzy when I was too young, and it just marked me for the rest of my life. I was just like, chicks should get together and just like tear people apart. And it was like I read it, I was too
tear people apart, break stones with your hands.
Yeah, just total like madness.
Tiger's milk.
It's
like lactate.
Just complete ape shit, and particularly in groups like that. That marked me for life, and I haven't been right since. So
do not hang out
Elizabeth Ann.
Thank you. Yeah, I just wanted to, I like that idea of that kind of a cult, that kind of and I also I really wanted to tell a story about again, and I felt bad because people. Nobody has said this, but I saw that Goodreads comment and I was like, oh my god, is my work kind of misogynist? Like, fuck no, it's not misogynist. Like, that's such a reductive reading. Like, that's not what I was trying to do at all.
I counted all the women who get killed in your book, and I've counted all the men who get killed in your book. I'm sorry, you have unexamined misogyny.
I have. There's certainly one number is higher than the other. But I also think that so much of I think a lot of what I'm trying to do too, for better or for worse, is to say, there is also power in being violent, and there's a reason why women are socialized to avoid violence. There's a reason why marginalized groups are always told to turn the other cheek. Like, no offense to nonviolent resistance, I get it. That's great. It does work, but sometimes. Some people don't respond to things unless you smack them right in the face. Like
Sorry, nothing to demand.
Yes.
You need the threat. There has to be the threat of some kind of adverse consequences a lot of the time to force them to. There was a wonderful line in a David Rudkin play, "Cries from Casement as his bones are brought from London." Great title as well, but. Roger Casement is kind of like his body was brought from, he was being buried in a traitor's grave in London, but was buried near Dublin. He'd wanted to be buried in Northern Ireland, where he'd grown up. But of course, that's still considered part of Britain. So buried in Dublin. So it's quite comical at times because he's there in his coffin protesting against his treatment. But there's a bit where all the kind of Irish, all the sort of all the countless generations of Irish rebels and Irish people who've been slaughtered by the English come up and talk to him. And one of them is Daniel O'Connell, who, not Daniel O'Donnell, that would be terrible, but Daniel O'Connell was a notorious, a known, apart from that, was a very big pacifist. You know, he sort of said no revolution's worth the effusion of a single drop of blood. But he says to him, you know, they say that violence is no answer, and yet it's always the first answer that they give.
Yeah.
But, yeah. The text note, yes, like, no, never use violence. Violence is a terrible thing. Yeah, why are you using it then?
Yeah, exactly.
Because it works. That's why. You know, that's why a movie like RRR is so satisfying.
I haven't seen that yet.
Yeah, you have. Yeah, you
I
have.
need to see it.
Yeah, you absolutely do. I mean, I understand it's 3 hours long, so you know you could watch it in 2 halves.
Yeah,
which is what I do with most Bollywood films. It's not Bollywood. It's Jesus.
Sri Lankan.
Tamil.
Yeah.
I think it was made in Tamil, but
it's the same guy who made Eager, the one about the guy who gets murdered and reincarnated as a housefly.
Yes, it was that guy. It was totally that guy. Anyway, so RRR is so satisfying, even for a person of nominally British descent, because you know it got a lot of flashback because all the British are complete assholes except for one girl who is sort of attracted to one of the guys, but they don't get together because you know that would be silly. And it's like I don't know how much you know about the history of the British in India, but no, I'm down with that. I'm absolutely fine with Indian people saying the British were complete assholes when they were here, because they were complete assholes.
Yeah, because they were. That's accurate.
And it's not good enough to respond to it with, you know, but you guys kill each other all the time.
Right. But that's the...
And we get to do that because we're us.
Right.
You know, you're right, on a human-to-human basis, that's not great. But
sure. And it's, you know, it's one of those things.
What they think about the British.
And that's always the excuse, though, right? It's always like, you know, I mean, it comes back kind of to the whole idea of like, again, that who gets to do violence to you?
Exactly. Who gets
to do violence to you? Who gets to do what to you? So, you know, again, if because when you said that about like the British and India, it just made me think of how, you know, whenever people talk about like Black Lives Matter in the United States or anywhere, the whole thing is people want to turn to that whole, you know, black on black crime, and it's like. Yeah. But nobody's saying that's okay either. Like that those things are not. You know, they're not mutually inclusive. Like that this is a if you do this thing, then that makes the other thing okay. They're both wrong. They're both wrong. But only one continues to maintain a historically you know, established you know, hierarchy of power. That is built on white supremacy.
There's a big difference between punching down and punching to the side.
Exactly.
Because you feel like you can't punch up.
Because you can't. Exactly. You gotta punch somebody, right? So you gotta punch somebody, so you punch to the side or you punch down, because you can't punch up for sure.
So here's what we know about as horror writers, all three of us, that we gotta punch.
You gotta punch somebody.
Yeah.
Punching's got to be done.
The punching's got to be done.
Truth. Oh my god. This has been wonderful.
It has.
Indeed.
I wish we could go on and on.
I wish we could too. Maybe we'll do like a part 2 or something. I don't know. Some way we can.
That would be wonderful. I would love to do that.
Okay. Yeah. I would totally be into it.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah. This has been so much fun. Thank y'all so much. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. All right. So Simon.
Okay, well, we shall be back at some future date with more babblings. Possibly we'll drag Paula back to sort of inflict more questions on it.
Yeah, inflict questions on
to hurt each other after all. and you'll find
deep. Sorry.
So Paul of Ash's collection, which has been nominated for the Stoker Award, is out now. It's We Are Here to Hurt Each Other, and we heartily urge you to read it because it is really, really good.
It's incredible.
Paula's Stoker-nominated debut collection, We Are Here to Hurt Each Other, is published by Nictitating Books, and you can buy it from Amazon or Godless. Links are posted in the description below. No Darkness But Ours is made possible through generous donations from horror enthusiasts just like you. If you'd like to support us, you can sign up to our Patreon and get access to exclusive content, or you can make a one-off donation via Ko-Fi. Links in the description below. If you enjoyed this episode, please let us know in the comments, share and subscribe, and don't forget to hit the like button if you're watching us on YouTube. Let us know as well if there's anything you'd really like to hear us talking about in the future, and we'll be back with more at the same time next week.
Until then, I have been Simon Bestwick.
I am still Gemma Files, and this is, of course, No Darkness.
Darkness.
Ours.